this is probably some of the most critical elements of the infrastructure bill, is how do we create mechanisms in the tax code for investment in infrastructure. I think about the people of my own district of the Virgin Islands who desperately need to have over incentives for companies, for investments, for private activity bonds, for others to be incentivized to go to those communities where they haven't gone before. I know that some of my colleagues in places like New York and Chicago, other places, have been able to benefit greatly from some of the incentives, the tax incentives that are there. But so many other parts of America have not been able to receive that. And this committee, through our chairman, is providing a mechanism for us to be educated and to ensure that legislation is going to support those communities that desperately need that type of investment. Treasurer Eubanks, I wanted to follow up on a question that one of my colleagues had for you previously about private activity bonds. States get a volume cap for private activity bonds that expires after 3 years. Only about 37% of states use more than 10% of their PAB allocations. Some states are greater users, but a lot of it ends up expiring and ends up not getting spent. There have been proposals to create a national pool of expired caps so that they can be recaptured and through an allocation methodology put back out into infrastructure. Do you have any thoughts about this idea?
Yes, Representative, thanks for the question. And I think you are making a very valid point here about how there's, areas in the country where there's additional demand for the private activity bonds than in others. And I think, there's a variety of ways you can do that. Of course, expanding the volume cap will allow, more states to have access to those, including the states that don't have them, don't have enough sufficient access to the PABs now. But also, just thinking about, ways to reallocate them. Are there certain projects that you want to, qualify to, kind of go into the pooled approach like you just talked about, or just altering the formula for those caps. So I think there's certainly, I think you have a very valid point, and I think there's ways that we have proposed on how you might look at reallocating that to make sure that the full amount is used for very important investments.
Thanks so much. Under the Clean Energy for America Act in the Senate, to make clean energy incentives more accessible, power projects and grid improvement projects have the option to claim the tax credit as direct payments. The electric vehicle credit is made refundable to consumers. Do any of you have any insights as to how this policy might be appealing to incentivize cleaner energy in low-income communities?
Yeah, I'll attack that question. And thank you, Congresswoman Plaskett, for keynoting our conference on the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico investment. We hold that conference every year to try to deal with issues just like this and how we best can take these various tax incentives and see that Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands are bidding from them proportionally as they should. I would say the Green Energy Act does have a direct pay option built into it. And I would say our developer clients do pretty universally support that as an option. That doesn't mean universally they'll adopt it. It more is a way of ensuring there's a floor in terms of equity pricing with respect to those credits, and then they can go out and market that and do what's best for the design of the development. And I think that option will make considerably more renewable energy projects financially feasible. And as a consequence, many of those developments will be able to serve low income areas.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any thoughts on? No, I want to thank you then. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to become better educated, to really have a dialogue with these incredible witnesses who are able to, in real-time application, show us what's been working and what hasn't, so that we can craft legislation that is not, as some of my colleagues said, a wild spending spree, but a mechanism to support the American economy. So those places like my home, which have been underserved by tax credits, by some of these programs, can build up and be the type of American cities and jurisdictions that we all want to have, so that we can have better jobs, so that we can have support in our housing, in our homes, to be the productive Americans that we all want to be. I would think that my Republican colleagues would want to see that more than anything. And this kind of discussion, I think, is going to get us there. I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady.